Welcome to Judge of Ghana TV. Akwa Baba, Judge of Ghana TV. So, in this episode of Judge of Ghana Reacts, we're going to cover three areas. We're going to have an update on Galamsey, then what Ghana can learn from Burkina Faso after President John Dramani Mahama visited Captain Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso. And thirdly, and lastly, we're going to examine Exodus 4, I am your calling.
Would have expected a bit more decisive action from His Excellency the President when the Alwyn MP, for example, was fingered by the traditional authority as being involved in Galamsey, and he also said he was not involved, but also counter alleging it. You would have expected His Excellency the President, who on July 7th had indicated that he was not going to tolerate the Kingpins, and that was his word. They were the people who was going to go after. You'd have been expecting that His Excellency would have publicly, ordered an investigation into that particular inquiry. Also, the NDC constituency chairman in I think it's the Lembele constituency, was also accused by one of the large-scale miners of being engaged in Galamsey in their constituency. And so you would want the president to be dealing more decisively with this. And as he deals with that, you'd have also been hoping that Aqua Mining, for example, that had the NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairperson being accused by the former Minister for Lands, and that we had petitioned the IGP. You have been hoping that the president would have indicated, would have publicly shown and taken action to make sure that he should go to court, and those who have to be investigated, to send the right signals to.
I believe Dr. Kenneth Ashigbey, the convener of the Media Coalition for Against Illegal Mining, has spoken very well. The success of President John Dramani Mahama's tenure as the President of Ghana, his 4-year tenure, is entirely dependent on how he handles illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. Everything hinges on eradication of Galamsey. I even put it ahead of Operation Recover or Loot. If you don't have clean drinking water, you can't have clean food. If you can't have clean food, feeding your people and exporting products out of the country to other countries is an impossibility. Illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey, is destroying life and the lands and water bodies in Ghana. Children are being born with missing limbs and they look like monsters because of the polluted waters. The cyanide and the lead and the so-called, uh, you know, harmful metals that they use in the Galamsey illegal mining process. Something has to be done. And Dr. Kenneth Ashigbey has said it well. And both parties, which is the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party, are involved in this Galamsey menace. So it shouldn't be trying to wash the NDC people and then make the MPP people look dirty. They've all been involved in this Galamsey illegal mining, and it is destroying the very fabric of Ghana. Well done, Dr. Kenneth. Let's clap for him. On March 10th, 2025, President John Dramani Mahama of Ghana met with Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the interim leader of Burkina Faso, to discuss several key issues, including trade, security, and the future of ECOWAS relations. The meeting, which took place in Ouagadougou, was part of Mahama's efforts to strengthen ties with Ghana's West African neighbors. Key issues, key discussion points. ECOWAS relations. Mahama addressed the breakdown of trust among leaders within ECOWAS and the need to restore confidence, assuring Traoré that he would relay Burkina Faso's concerns to other West African leaders at the next ECOWAS summit. Security. Discussions centered on the growing threat of terrorism in the Sahel region and the necessity for a united front against it. Trade and economic ties. Both leaders explored ways to improve the transit corridor for Burkina importers using Ghana's ports, facilitate agricultural trade, and establish a direct Accra Ouagadougou flight. They also discussed increasing Ghana's electricity exports to Burkina Faso and expanding the petroleum transit corridor. Burkina Faso had acquired a storage terminal in Tema and was considering using Ghana's pipeline network to transport fuel and diesel products to Ouagadougou. Bilateral cooperation. Both presidents expressed commitment to strengthening bilateral cooperation and laying the groundwork for the development of their nations, including cooperation agreements on railway interconnection, memorandum of understanding in the fields of security, sports, and recreation and education. Regional diplomacy. Mahama's visit was part of his diplomatic efforts to address regional security challenges, particularly concerning the alliance of Sahel states. And following visits to Mali and Niger, he also pledged to help rebuild ties between ECOWAS and the Sahel alliance. So, President Mahama was in Burkina Faso. But what I want to concentrate on today is what can Ghana learn from Ibrahim Traoré's Burkina Faso? Ghana can learn several lessons from Ibrahim Traoré's leadership in Burkina Faso, particularly in the areas of anti corruption efforts, economic reforms, and Pan Africanism. Potential lessons for Ghana. 1. Anti corruption measures. Ghana can emulate Traoré's commitment to fighting corruption, which has led to the arrest and conviction of high profile officials in Burkina Faso. Economic reforms. Ghana can consider economic reforms. Ghana can consider similar reforms to improve livelihoods and drive economic growth, such as reducing ministers' salary while increasing workers' wages. 3. Reduce reliance on foreign powers. Ghana can draw inspiration from Burkina Faso's efforts to reduce reliance on foreign influence and promote a more independent foreign policy. 4. Focus on key sectors. Ghana can emulate Traoré's focus on healthcare, agriculture, and economic growth by deploying mobile clinics, providing equipment to farmers, and distributing seeds and fertilizers. Regional collaboration. Ghana can learn from Burkina Faso's efforts to foster collaboration with neighboring countries to address shared regional challenges. Pan Africanism. Ghana can strengthen its commitment to African unity by building bridges with other African nations and promoting homegrown solutions to the challenges facing the continent. These are the things that Ghana can learn from Burkina Faso. There are one, two, three, four, five, six. Six things they can learn. Firstly, anti corruption measures. Secondly, economic reforms. Thirdly, reduce reliance on foreign powers. Fourthly, focus on key sectors. Fifthly, regional collaboration. And last and not least, Pan Africanism. Now we've talked about what Ghana can learn from Burkina Faso. I would like us to move on to the teaching of the day, which is Exodus 4. I am your calling. Take a listen and watch this. Today, I'm reading the Good News Bible, and we're on Exodus 4. I am your calling. That's the title of today's episode. I am your calling. So let's read Exodus 4. It says, God gives Moses miraculous power. Then Moses answered the Lord, but suppose the Israelites do not believe me and will not listen to what I say. What shall I do if they say that you did not appear to me? So the Lord asked him, what are you holding? A stick, he answered. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. When Moses threw it down, it turned into a snake, and he ran away from it. Then the Lord said to Moses, bend down and pick it up by the tail. So Moses bent down and caught it, and it became a stick again. The Lord said, do this to prove to the Israelites that the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has appeared to you. The Lord spoke to Moses again. Put your hand inside your robe. Moses obeyed, and when he took his hand out, it was diseased, covered with white spots like snow. I want us to stop here, and I want us to examine Exodus 4, chapter 4, verse 6. It says, the Lord spoke to Moses again. Put your hand inside your robe. Moses obeyed, and when he took his hand out, it was diseased, covered with white spots like snow. Essentially, this tells us that God wanted to, basically he was showing Moses the things that he will do to prove that Moses was called by him, the Most High God. And first he used his stick that turned to a snake to prove that. And then next he said, if the Israelites still don't believe that I sent you, and it is I that revealed myself to you and told you to come and deliver them out of bondage, deliver them out of the land of Egypt, then do this miracle. Put your hand into your cloak, your robe. And when he did that, when Moses obeyed and did that and took it out, Moses' hand had become, in other versions of the Bible says that his hand was white as snow. What does that tell you about the color of Moses? It tells you that Moses was not white. Because if Moses was white and God told him to do this thing that was a miraculous sign that God sent him. If Moses was white and he put his white hand into his cloak and pulled it out and it was still white, that will not be a miracle. But the fact that Moses was brown-skinned black person, that is why when he put his hand in his robe and he pulled it out and it was white, it was a miracle. And then the Bible tells us that when Moses put it back into his cloak again and pulled it out, it had been restored to the original skin color. So what tells you that? This confirms, if you're in any doubt that Jesus was black, Moses was black, Joseph was black, this is one of the evidences. I told you that the Bible is littered with evidence. So it doesn't matter whether the so-called white man took the Bible and went to repackage it and whiteified the Bible to make all the characters appear to be white. There are certain evidences that they weren't able to eradicate or rub out. Things like language. If you look at some of the words that are used in the Bible, it is clear that it's rooted in certain African languages. For example, the Akan language has a very, very strong link to many of the Israelite names that are in the Bible. There's so many examples. For the other day, I was telling a friend that if you're called Benjamin, in the Asante Akan Tree language, Benjamin means you are close to God. Benyame. Benyame. That is what Benjamin means. Benyame. Yeah. And it means the person who is close to God. Benyame. And even I always have a joke with some of my siblings when we talk, that the current president of Israel is called Benjamin Netanyahu. And we just make a joke and say, look, it is Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu. That is what it means. And what it means is his name, Benjamin Netanyahu, actually means in the Asante Akan Tree language is the God that is fearful. When he hates you with so much fear, passion. Yes. So the God who is fearful in the way he hates. So what time? Time means hate. Or dislike. Yes. The God that dislikes you with a passion. Benyamia Netanyahu. And it's frightening. When God hates something, it is with a frightening passion. Yes. Benjamin means that being close to God. Be close to the God whose fear, whose hate is fearful. Anyway, I've explained that to you. So now we all know that in Exodus 4 verse 6, it says that Moses put his hand in his coat, and when he took it out, the color had changed and become white as snow. It means that it's clear that now we're all aware that Moses was a black man, because it won't be a miracle if you were white and you pulled your hand out and it was still white. But if you were black and you pulled your hand out and your hand had changed to white as snow, then that's a miracle. Let's go to the next verse. Let's continue. Then the Lord said, "Put your hand inside your robe again." He did so, and when he took it out this time, it was healthy, just like the rest of his body. Listen, they said, when he put his hand in again and took it out, after the command of the Most High God, the Lord God, Moses' hand had become healthy and looked at the rest of his body. That means that the rest of Moses' body was brown skin, a black person's skin. The Lord said, if they will not believe you or be convinced by the first miracle, then this one will convince them. If in spite of these 2 miracles they still do not believe you, and if they refuse to listen to what you say, take some water from the Nile and pour it on the ground. The water will turn into blood. So the third miracle that God taught Moses, and he let him experiment in his presence, was telling him that if you take the water from the Nile and pour it on the ground, it will turn to blood. So God was just explaining to Moses that he was going to use these 3 miracles to prove to the people of God who were in Egypt, the Israelites, that he, God, had sent Moses, because Moses wasn't confident that if he goes they would believe him, because he knew about his history. In life, if you have done something that has been untoward, you've got a track record of being a convict or a fugitive, people don't tend to believe you. Yes, even if you take the case of Saul, who became Paul, nobody believed him that he had changed. When he met God on the way to Damascus, and the beam of light came and he became blinded, and from then on he changed he became a new person. He changed. Nobody believed him. The Christians, the first Christians, were fearful of him. Even the one that God sent to come and pray for him for his eyes to be healed after he was blinded by the light on the way to Damascus was fearful. But little by little, God proved that he was truly with Saul, who had become Paul. Let's continue. But Moses said, "No, Lord, don't send me." So regardless of the fact that God was trying to reassure Moses, Moses still didn't have, his confidence was low. And he felt that if God could send somebody else to deliver the Israelites out of Egypt, he would prefer that. And he started making more excuses. God doesn't care whether you think you don't have the ability or not. God knows you have the ability to do what he has commanded you to do. All you have to do is be obedient. Whether you think you're slow of speech, which is what Moses was saying to God, that I'm slow of speech, so send somebody else. Let's listen to what happened. But Moses says, "No, Lord, don't send me. I've never been a good speaker, and I haven't been one since you began to speak to me, and I haven't become one." So this is Moses' excuse to God. He said, but Moses said, "No, Lord, don't send me. I have never been a good speaker, and I haven't become one since you began to speak to me. I'm a poor speaker, slow and hesitant." So Moses said that it's fine and great that the Most High God, you're showing me these signs and wonders so that people believe that you revealed yourself to me and you are the one that sent me to Egypt to go and deliver the people of God, the Israelites. But regardless of whatever miracles you've shown that shows that God is with me, I'm not a good speaker. I'm not good at speaking. I don't have good presentation skills. I'm not the best person to be doing this. There's a lot of people lack confidence to even come before a camera and speak. And they say things like, "Oh, I'm not a good speaker," whatever. I'll tell you my story. When I was little, I wasn't a good speaker. It was only when I went to university, and my university happened to be outside London. It was in the Midlands, and at university I lived on campus. It was a campus university, and we had a radio station. And I decided that because when you go, they've got all these different groups and societies that you can join all these in your leisure time, and I chose to be a DJ, to learn to become a DJ at the radio station at university, because we had a campus radio. So I was a DJ, and I started getting more confident. And unbeknownst to me, the ability to communicate became very important, because when I finished my university degree, my first job, it was in supply chain planning, it's procurement. And I was working in a factory. I was working in a factory in the north, just outside Manchester. And when I was working in this factory, I had to communicate results, and on a daily basis, almost a daily basis, Monday to Friday at least, to management. We had video conferences, because we had meetings with our American office, and then the UK office was, in communication with them. They were, working out their numbers, and if you make a mistake, it means that it's going to cost jobs or it's going to cause problems. So you have to be very, very careful and communicate accurate figures. So I was one of the, even though I was young, I was given a lot of responsibility just after university. And obviously, in England, when you are, in those days, when you're black, first of all, there are not many black people. I was the only black person doing that supply chain planning role, only black person in the department. And then I had the responsibility to always be sitting on the camera, basically interacting with the US, by video link. This was before mobile phones came into place, so it was a big deal. Yes. So my confidence grew, and I became every day you improve, but it didn't become a problem for me to speak on camera or to speak to people. So if I didn't go and do the radio job, I wouldn't have been able to do my first job after university. So it all got a knock-on effect. So things just don't happen by coincidence. Things happen for a reason. So God made this happen so that I could carry on and have the confidence to do the job. Because you never know the future, but God knows the future, and God knows the things that He wants you to go and do. So everything works together for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. Romans 8:28. That one I believe, because if I look at how far God has brought me all the way throughout my life, how God has been with me, and the way my life has transformed by being obedient and close to God, I know there's a God in heaven, and He works in the affairs of men. Let's carry on. The Lord said to him, because well, sometimes you can complain to God that you're not able to do this, and God just gets fed up with you. So God just said, okay, stop complaining. You're still going to do the job, but I'm going to give you an ochiame. I'm going to give you somebody who will speak on your behalf. Yes, I will communicate with you, and you will communicate with them, and then they will speak on your behalf. So that's where Moses' brother Aaron got involved. So let's listen to what God said to Moses. He said, the Lord said to Moses, who gives man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or dumb? Who gives him sight, and who makes him blind? Is it I, the Lord? It is I, the Lord. Now go, I will help you to speak, and I will tell you what to say. It's all said and done. But Moses answered, no, Lord, please send someone else. So God said that, don't worry, I'll help you to speak, I'll show you what to say, whatever. And still Moses lacked confidence and said, no, send somebody else. And then God got exasperated with him and said, at this the Lord became angry. Listen, when Moses was still telling God to send someone else, God got angry. So the fact that God gave Moses Aaron to speak on his behalf, it wasn't part of God's original plan. But because God was angry with Moses because of his attitude, because if the one that created you said that I will show you what to say and I'll be with you and I'll help you to speak, why did Moses lack confidence when God has given him that assurance? He created you, he created your mouth, he created your tongue. So if you've got a problem, is it not God that can rectify it? But Moses was just trying to find an excuse. He was trying to chicken out. And God said, okay, he got angry and said, okay, this is what God said. At this, the Lord became angry at Moses and said, what about your brother, Aaron, the Levite? So Aaron was not God's first choice. It was like an afterthought. I know that he can speak well. In fact, he's now coming to meet you and will be glad to see you. You can speak to him and tell him what to say. I will help both of you to speak, and I will tell you both what to do. He will be your spokesman and speak to the people for you. Then you will be like God telling him what to say. Take this stick with you, for with it you will perform miracles. So God will never send you out to do his will without giving you what you need. In this instance, he gave Moses a stick. And when Moses complained that he was slow of speech and he couldn't speak properly, God gave him Aaron out of frustration because he was angry. Exodus 4:18. Moses returns to Egypt. Then Moses went back to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, please let me go to my relatives in Egypt to see if they are still alive. Jethro agreed and said goodbye to him. While Moses was still in Midian, the Lord said to him, go back to Egypt, for all those who wanted to kill you are dead. So Moses took his wife and his sons and put them on a donkey and set out with them for Egypt, carrying the stick that God had told him to take. Again, so Moses went to Egypt with his family, his wife and his children, and his weapon from God, which was his stick. God had empowered the stick that Moses was holding. Again, the Lord said to Moses, now that you are going back to Egypt, be sure to perform before the king all the miracles which I have given you the power to do. But I will make the king stubborn, and he will not let the people go. Then you must tell him that I, the Lord, said, Israel is my firstborn son. I told you to let my son go so that he might worship me, but you refused. Now I'm going to kill your firstborn son. At a camping place on the way to Egypt, the Lord met Moses and tried to kill him. So the God who is sending Moses back to Egypt is the same God that's trying to kill Moses. Then Zipporah, his wife, took a sharp stone, cut off the foreskin of her son, and touched Moses' feet with it. Because of the rite of circumcision, she said to Moses, you are a husband of blood to me. And so the Lord spared Moses' life. So the sign that you are a child of God is your male sons must be circumcised. So the fact that Zipporah, the wife of Moses, was a wise woman, she saw that the son that she had with Moses was not circumcised, but clearly Moses was circumcised. That's why the wife knew what to do. Meanwhile, the Lord had said to Aaron, go into the desert to meet Moses. So he went to meet Moses. He went to meet him at the holy mountain. And when he met him, he kissed him. Then Moses told Aaron everything the Lord had said when he told him to return to Egypt. He also told him about the miracles which the Lord had ordered him to perform. So Moses and Aaron went to Egypt and gathered all the Israelite leaders together. And Aaron told them everything that the Lord had said to Moses. So Aaron began his work as the speaker on behalf of Moses. So Moses told Aaron what to say, and Aaron spoke to the people. Then Moses performed all the miracles in front of the people. So all the miracles God told Moses to perform in front of the people, so that they'll know that it's he, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that sent Moses. He did it. They believed, and when they heard that the Lord had come to them and had seen how they were being treated cruelly, they bowed down and worshipped. Because when it is evident that God has heard your cry and is making plans to release you from the bondage you're in, you don't have any choice but to worship God and thank God. And that was the mood that the Israelites were in. They were thanking God for taking them out of bondage. So you worship God because He's God and because His words are true. If He says you do something, He does it. So this comes to the end of Exodus 4. This ends Exodus 4. I am your calling. And what I want to summarize this Exodus 4, I am your calling, with is that when God calls you to do something, He will give you all you need to succeed. Sometimes you say to yourself, my money is not enough. I don't understand this, I don't understand that. Look, if you don't understand something, learn. Now we are very fortunate that we're in the information age where you can search things on the internet. You've got YouTube, you can search a lot of things there and learn a lot of things. So you've got no excuse to say that you don't have what it takes. You have all that it takes, and the information is there. The only thing that will make you fail is if you lack knowledge, because the Bible says if you lack knowledge you shall perish. So you need to seek knowledge, and in getting your knowledge you need to get wisdom and understanding, because without that you will never succeed. So when God calls you, He will make sure you have all that you need. Never say what you have is not enough. The lady that Elijah visited, who had a little bit of oil, she used that little bit of oil and borrowed pots, and through it she became very wealthy. So the little you have, God will use what you have in your hand to multiply what you need to succeed. So this is the end of this episode. As I've told you before, you can download our free devotional at ko-fi.com/coachright. Also, in this episode, I talked about corruption. I have a free, PDF, ebook you can download on called Unmasking Corruption. And it talks about corruption in the 54 African countries. It's not an extensive thing, but at least it gives you a bit of flavor of the things that have gone on, the corruption cases. It's not talking about who was convicted and all that. It doesn't necessarily follow that path. It talks about the issues which were taken to criminal courts concerning corruption. Whether the people were absolved or not, it's not the issue. It's the fact that corruption exists. And it's very easy to fall into the corruption trap, because people call corruption by so many different names, but in the end it's still corruption. So as I always say, this comes to the end of our episode. If you like this type of content, I would like you to like, share, subscribe. And as I always end my episodes these days, I say, remember, Ghana first always. Bye for now, and see you in the next episode. Bye for now.